on the Up and Adam Show. Julius Thomas is on the program, but right now, I cannot wait to talk to my friend, award-winning sports journalist who's written for Sports Illustrated, Yahoo Sports, currently a San Francisco Chronicle columnist. He spent 8 years as an analyst for the NFL Network with me. We had a dinner once or twice or 3 times whenever you'd grace us with your presence in New York. You have a new book. I'm so freaking happy for you and proud of you. I can't even imagine doing something like this. It's called The Way is Everything, a story of football, rivalry, and revolution by the wonderful Michael Silver. This looks amazing.
Hi, Kay. How are you?
I'm great. What's going on? What's new? This is new.
I'm very excited about this book, Kay. It does not come out till October 1st, but the pre-order link is up everywhere. And I know Father's Day is coming up. This is... I think moms, dads, kids, grandparents are all going to love this book because we're not just talking about these 5 coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, Matt LaFleur, Raheem Morris, who are game changers and very idiosyncratic in their own ways, but they're part of a movement and really a different way of approaching football that is now sweeping the league and the sport, and we get into all of it, and I can't wait for you to read it.
I love it. The Why is Everything is your 5th book, actually. The last one you wrote was turned into a movie, American Underdog, Anyone, which is amazing. It was about Kurt Warner, of course. This, like you're saying, it's about Shanahan. It's about coaching trees, ins and outs. It's fascinating. 19 years later, though, why was this the time to write this book?
You know, I covered Mike Shanahan back in the day when he was resurrecting his career as the 49er offensive coordinator in the early 90s. Steve Young was kind of an embattled guy for all his talent, following Joe Montana. Together, they made magic. Mike Shanahan went to Denver, started the outside zone revolution, and really was a step ahead of his peers for a long time. Now you fast forward to Washington, the early part of the last decade. He has all these unbelievably talented but raw assistants on his staff, and together they are faced with a problem. RG3 is the quarterback. He's never run anything resembling a pro offense, and they have to throw him in, and they come up with a solution that takes the league by storm, and it just lays the groundwork for a different way of thinking. Instead of this is how we do it and we have to fit it within this paradigm, it's let's just tear up the paradigm and question everything, which is how we get the title. So that's kind of the natural jumping off point. And then, of course, pettiness, rivalry, friendship,
Let's
triumph,
talk about that.
tragedy, all that ensues.
Listen, this could be a movie, I'm sure. We'll get into who would play who or whatever, but you write in this book that the Shanahan tree is defined by what you're saying. It's real competitive stuff. There's real stuff there. It's a rivalry, especially when it comes to Shanahan and McVay. You know, you write that they're known as enemy friends, and some would call it frenemies. I like enemy friends better. And, you know, there's been plenty of what my good friend Nate Burleson would call Petty Murphy. There have been plenty of Petty Murphiness here. There's paranoia. What moment, like the defining moment, would be the scene in the movie that would like define that rivalry at its best?
Well, first of all, I think we got to get Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers songs for the soundtrack.
For sure.
And we can cast this mythical movie, hopefully, eventually non-mythical, if you choose. But in the meantime, I'm going to answer the question. You know, look, there was a period where Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur, who had once been very close, didn't speak for months during a very contentious 2021 season, and it was precipitated by that draft drama. So let's go back to the 2021 draft. If you remember, I was in Denver for NFL Network, and as so often happens, the drama came to me because there was a lot of talk that Aaron Rodgers would suddenly be traded to the Broncos that night. It didn't happen. But there were also reports about the 49ers and Aaron Rodgers. And to Matt LaFleur, they seemed suspiciously timed. He felt a little betrayed, or a lot of betrayed, by Kyle Shanahan, who knew a lot. And it led to a blow-up that famously, when the Packers beat them in that regular season game in 2021, they had one of the chilliest non-Belichick handshakes in football history. They've since repaired it. But yeah, Shanahan and McVay, they say in the Rams facility that it's fine if anyone else wins a Super Bowl besides Sean McVay, Andy Reid, except Kyle. Kyle can't win. Kay, you'll also be happy to know there's a scene in the book where we remember that 2018 game that I attended at Soldier Field when the Rams were flying so high late in the season, and Vic Fangio and the Bears took them apart and laid kind of a blueprint for Belichick that he used in the Super Bowl. Sean McVay understood what Fangio had done to him, to the point where there's a scene where they're watching the Bears playoff game, which I don't know if you know this, but it ended with something called the double doink.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Soon.
Thanks for bringing it up, jerk.
But they erupted at the Rams facility at Thousand Oaks because they didn't want to play the Bears again. And they knew that instead they could play the Saints. Not that that was an easy matchup, but they wanted no part of that. So it is too soon, I know, but it's in there.
I wouldn't say it's too soon because they got Caleb and they got lots to look forward to, and we love that. And I think any Eagles fan listening to this is going to eat up what you're saying, because that is now the guy who's running that defense that fell apart and kind of fell apart at times and didn't play to their potential. And you know, Vic Fangio is still that OG. Like, he's still the guy that, you know, even a brilliant mind, an offensive wizard like McVay doesn't want to face. I love to hear that. I had an over-under with Hamilton on how many minutes it would take for you to bring up somebody from Cal.
Well, I heard you talking about Morikawa on the break. So, I mean, I was all revved up, and you see the helmet.
You brought up Aaron Rodgers.
Richard tried to get it out of the shot during the break, but I think we
show me that beautiful Dennis Rodman shot that we saw earlier, Richard. Would you? Derek and Richard there. Look at that, man. Why is that up there?
So, Kay, imagine this. I'm a young writer at Sports Illustrated. I just got hired maybe about 7 months earlier, and they send us to what we called Camp SI, a getaway in Orlando where we all went to a resort and bonded and may or may not have partied a lot. And then Jordan came back. So this is a timestamp. Jordan ended his retirement. It set a weird thing in motion where Rick Riley had to go here, and I had to go back on the road straight from there. I got home. All I wanted to do was rest, and they called and they said, you got to go to L.A. Dennis Rodman's getting really weird. We need you to try to do something on him. 4 nights, 3 states, and about 6 total hours of sleep later, we came out with this, and it just degenerated from there. A lot of time in Chicago after that. He was with the Spurs at this point, but a lot of time in the great city of Chicago.
Which will not welcome you back for hearkening the name Double Doink here on the Up and Adam show. That will follow you. You will not be welcome with welcome arms to the Windy City, my friend. Okay, you said, let's get back to this rivalry. Which is, again, guys, in this book, check it out. It is available in October. Great. Father's Day? Anyone? Gifts? Anyone? Perfect thing to get. Go ahead and order it. The pre-order is happening right now. You're saying that McVay is like, anybody can win a Super Bowl. You said the words, Kyle can't win. In a vacuum, Kyle can't win is sort of a thing. So McVay is sort of winning that and getting kind of what he wants. You've taken the deepest dive. You know the innards, the in-betweenies, all of of this. Despite such brilliance, such success, the teams come up short in big games. Why?
You know, one answer is Patrick Mahomes, right? He's playing a generational player twice. But I think what people look to is they say, you know, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons when they blew that lead. That's on Dan Quinn, certainly, but Kyle stayed aggressive, and it blew up late in that game. Then fourth quarter lead in Super Bowl 54 in Miami against the Chiefs, 10-point fourth quarter lead midway through, it blows up. And they had a 10-point lead in this Super Bowl. It wasn't so much a blown lead, but again, his decisions very under the microscope. I think that, you know, Kyle Shanahan wants the game to be played on his terms. We see that time and time again. When the game is played on his terms, it works out well. And so the question is, what happens when it isn't? And we've seen some coaches on the fly be able to adjust just brilliantly under adverse conditions. With Kyle, that's still open to question. Now, that said, the game was playing out at his terms this last Super Bowl late in the game. If they hit that third down coming out of the 2-minute warning, they probably bleed the clock down, kick a field goal at the end, and that narrative is blown up. It's a game of inches. They weren't ready for the blitz. It led to an incompletion, and Mahomes. So, Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant coach. You'll see in this book, with access to all these guys, they all talk about it. They all talk about the journey. We learn a lot about what makes him tick. But for all his dominance over McVay in their rivalry, the one game that mattered most, McVay won and then won a Super Bowl, and that is all that matters to me.
I always look forward to. I don't care who else is playing on those weeks that the Niners face the Rams. I'm in. I think it should be the biggest game of the week. It's always fun to watch the chess match between both of them. Let's talk about Cal, guys. Let's go. We talk a little Rodgers. We can get to that in a little bit. But I want to ask you about Jared Goff, because I was like, oh yes, Michael Silver's coming on the show. Me and Hamilton are sitting there and sort of thinking about. When this whole thing happened with the Rams shipping Jared Goff off for basically nothing and all whatever, it was all like there was a lot of not anti-Jared Goff, but it was definitely like an underwhelming situation for his side. You never saw that perspective. Do you feel like vindication now? Like, how are you feeling about, because it's something that, the question that I have in here, were you surprised he became a success? I know the answer to that. You're not surprised. But do you feel vindicated because it has all worked out and he has shown that he is that dude?
Well, obviously, I feel vindicated because it's all about me. But on a more important note, I'm really proud of Jared because I've known him since he's, a really young guy. And one thing that struck me at Cal, we always joke, I met him and his parents after a really unfortunate day that included a big game loss to our rival Stanford. And I didn't handle it well. And I always joke that he handled it a lot better than I did, even though he played in the game. And I just saw, a lot of these guys who end up going first overall and having that road to the NFL paved in glory didn't have real adversity, at least in college. And Jared Goff really did. He was 1-11 as a freshman, got pulled out of a game in Oregon in the rain because it was such a disaster, tore up his shoulder in a rivalry game, and never really had that smooth reality. Wasn't a big recruit, and his first year with the Rams was brutal. So I've always felt that his calm demeanor and really his ability to be introspective when things are breaking down, look at himself, not put it on others, and just try to get better would carry him through ultimately. And he did not get put into a great situation in Detroit. Take the public perception out of it, which was that, they threw him in and they had to pay an extra first-round pick just to get out of his contract. Nobody wants him. But, that Lions team had not won much. Dan Campbell was coming in with a lot of hope, but no real credibility. And they had a rough first year, and they hung tough. And, he's been... he and Ben Johnson have formed such a nice partnership. Twice Ben Johnson has turned down potential head coaching opportunities to stay. And Jared's really upped his game. So, he doesn't make a lot of noise about it, but he's got a lot of pride. And I really think, other than staying calm under fire, his best quality is he does look at himself and he does honestly try to use these experiences to improve.
Who has a better shot of winning the Super Bowl or taking their team further? Who takes their team further this year, Jared Goff or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, it's a Cal on Cal,
Let's effing go, Michael.
Conundrum. It's like having question. Morikawa. I'm trying to impress my good friend who documented Scotty Scheffler's arrest recently, but it's like having a Max Homa versus Colin Morikawa playoff. I think I did that right.
Let's give our love to Jeff Darling. Let's just take a moment. We'll put this up. Jeff, I miss you. I don't talk to you anymore. You don't write, you don't call. Let's give a shout out to Mr. Darlington.
He's a big celebrity, Kay. Yeah. And listen, I will say this, everybody, kind of was checking out Jeff Darlington in the heart of the action as the Scotty Scheffler thing went down. But, as his friend and as a journalist, it's pouring rain, it's confusion, it's early in the morning. A lot of people just got the heck out of Dodge. He moved toward that situation and forget all the other stuff. He did journalism, and journalism, sometimes it turns glamorous because it happened to be Scotty Scheffler, but the instincts are just, it's not about you. Just go get the story.
Yeah.
I know you know that. Here you are. You know, you've had an incredible journey. You are doing journalism. You're getting players who are in the news to walk into the shot of other players that you interview and breaking things.
It's not easy to coordinate those, NBA 2K battles in the morning between two guys that really make them appear on screen at the same time. It's very true, Michael. You're so right. And yeah, Jeff Darlington, right place, right time, wrong place, wrong time. No matter what, he's there.
That is 100% true, and I'm hoping that when this does get made into a movie, The Why Is Everything, to bring it back to my product, I want you and Jeff Darlington. I want a lot of people playing themselves. I want Diana Rossini in there. Okay. I want to get Melissa Stark. I want to get Kevin Harlan. I want to get everybody who's cool.
Any of your former bosses, would they be in this movie?
That's such a great question. And yes, Dave Morgan from Yahoo, the guy who brought me there, he'd be the first guy I'd think of because he could play Jon Stewart, oddly enough.
Will you just stop? Will you answer the freaking question? Like, stop skirting around this thing. What do we? Rodgers, Goff. Who leads their team further?
That's right. There was a question in there. I'm going to go with Goff. The inertia of Rodgers being there, it's New York. It's a team where they're just looking for reasons to, go, well, we're the Jets, deep inside. And I love so many of the people there, and I have so much faith in them. But it just feels like they made a deal with the devil in that not only do we want Aaron Rodgers, but you can have everything you want. And we're going to get your coordinator preemptively. We're going to go get Lazard. We're going to go get all these guys. And if it works, great. And if not, it'll implode again. It doesn't mean that, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. He's certainly capable of elevating the whole thing and winning. I'm not saying they can't win, but I just think it's the potential for implosion is also very, very real. Whereas the Lions could take a step back, but I feel like they're going to be in the mix with that offensive line.
It's a real off between those two, but you're adamant about Jared. Aaron Rodgers is missing mandatory minicamp today. You see that? Where is he? Where is he?
There's always a little weirdness with the Jets. It's just,
He's attending an event that was very important to him.
Is it involved with a presidential campaign? Is it a Jeopardy retrospective?
See, I haven't written 5 books, but I know better than to make a joke about it until I know what it is. What if it's something serious, Michael?
You're right. No, and in fact, listen, I'm not one of those believers that minicamp matters a whole lot.
Okay, great.
I'll never forget, Kay, and this is so Sports Illustrated.
We're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk on the break. Let's take a TV break. We're going to stay live on YouTube, and we'll get these clips out. We will be back, of course, for those of you watching on FanDuel TV, on streaming on Max later. The Why Is Everything, a story of football, rivalry, and revolution by the wonderful Michael Silver. We will be back. Julius Thomas on deck. Why do I keep saying on deck? What is wrong with me?